It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be podsmacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
And this is episode number 86 as we close in on 100, the Rob Carson Show podcast. Now on iTunes, just look up the Rob Carson Show. It's right there. Also want to mention I'm on Audio Boom as well. Audio Boom. Yeah, Audio Boom. And that's kind of cool because not only does it have the podcast that I'm doing now, episodes up to number 86 now, but also a lot of the radio shows I've done at radio stations around the country, including KCMO Talk Radio. So very cool. There's literally like 1,700 podcasts up there. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Okay. Just want to welcome you to the show. I've been feeling under the weather. I don't know what it is. I got some sort of funk. Last night I went to bed at 5:45 p.m. I slept until 8 o'clock this morning. There was nothing like 14 hours of sleep. Then I got up, prepared the podcast, and went back to bed for 2 hours. So I am feeling better. A little rough, though. A little rough going. I want to mention our sponsor, which is Grass Monsters KC. Grass Monsters KC 5500. Raytown Road in Raytown, and they sell these terrific lines of mowers, one of them being the Dixie Chopper, one of them being the Hustler made in Kansas, Dixie Chopper made in Indiana, American made, and just honestly, just a fantastic product line. You should call, or you should just go online to grassmonsterskc.com. And then go talk to Andrew, who owns it. Andrew Cook, he owns the place, and it is just it'll blow you away. The legendary Hustler Raptor. This is a residential mower that's unbelievable. 0 turning radius. These things will last you forever. By the way, with some of these mowers, 4-year, 400-hour guarantee on these. The Raptor's a 3-year, 300-hour guarantee. All right, so you just mow and take care. And by the way, also at Grass Monsters, they will take care of you if something happens to the mower. Bring it in; they'll take care of it for you. They do a great job. So Grass Monsters KC is their website. Okay. We have much to get to as the show progresses. We've got lots of audio I'd like to get to. I'm going to call out Stephen Colbert here in a little bit, and I'm going to juxtapose a couple of late-night talk shows with Stephen Colbert last night. What Stephen Colbert said last night was absolutely vile, vitriolic, foul, homophobic, grotesque, and an insult to all who have had a late-night talk show with an audience. When I'm going to play it, I'll get a couple sound bites from him. And honestly, they should fire the bastard. Because this is, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be, why do I use the name Carson on the radio? Johnny Carson grew up near my hometown. He was long gone by the time I was born. But I always dreamed about doing late night TV and always respected it. And Johnny Carson was the template. David Letterman became the template, and then he became kind of a douche. And there have been a lot of people who've done it. Jay Leno, I thought, did a great job. Jay Leno would not say anything like Colbert did. And I just thought it was insulting. Conan O'Brien, he does a very nice job. He wouldn't do what Colbert did last night. What's her name? The Samantha Bee, she might. But who's watching that crap? And we're moving into some new territory with regard to commentary and late night TV. We're moving into a more tasteless, less civil brand of comedy. And I wouldn't consider what Stephen Colbert said to be comedy. Stephen Colbert called Donald Trump out for a couple of reasons. Donald Trump walked out on an interview this weekend with John Dickerson, and that apparently really ticked off Stephen Colbert. Here is Donald Trump having his 100-day interview on CBS over the weekend, and then he walked out.
Surveillance of our citizens. I think that's a very big topic, and it's a topic that should be number one, and we should find out what the hell is going on.
I just wanted to find out, though, you're the president of the United States. You said he was sick and bad because he had tapped you.
You can take it any way you want.
But I'm asking you because you don't want it to be fake news. I want to hear it from President Trump.
You don't have to ask me.
Why not?
Because I have my own opinions. You can have your own opinions.
But I want to know your opinions. You're the president of the United States.
It's enough. Thank you.
So he cuts off the interview.
Thank you very much.
Donald Trump, it turns out his campaign team, his transition team were surveilled. under the guise of going after foreign officials. And so they would listen in for the ambassador to Russia, knowing that it could be a Trump official, so they hoped they could get something. And obviously they didn't. They were looking for some sort of collusion, I guess, to throw the election. If it would have actually happened, it would have been released before the election, because it would have thrown it in Hillary Clinton's favor. That said, that ended the interview. All right? Now, there was this guy yesterday or Saturday night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And this guy from, The Daily Show, Hassan Minhaj, he was hosting it, and he was, fairly vicious. He said he did not see Steve Bannon, not see Steve Bannon, not see Steve Bannon. And that's, you want to talk about hate speech, calling someone a Nazi, all right? When you roast somebody or you're having fun, it's generally out of love. This is not out of love. This is out of hate. This is out of vitriol. This is out of out of the realm of what comedy should do. Nazi. You can't call someone a Nazi. Calling someone a Nazi is not funny, and it's not appropriate. Donald Trump also had an interview this weekend and ruminated about the Civil War. And it's been taken out of context. He did an interview with the Washington Examiner. Here's a little piece of it.
I mean, had Andrew Jackson been a little bit later, you wouldn't have had the Civil War. He was a very tough person, but he had a big heart, and he was really angry that he saw what was happening with regard to the Civil War. He said, "There's no reason for this." People don't realize, the Civil War. You think of. I mean, had Andrew Jackson been a little bit later, you wouldn't have had the Civil War.
Okay, so he said, had Andrew Jackson been a little bit later, we wouldn't have had the Civil War. Talking about him about being a strong leader. I'm not sure why he went this way.
Civil War.
Saying that Andrew Jackson was upset by it. I'm not sure exactly where that came from. The media has jumped all over it, glommed all over it, including Morning Joe saying that Trump's lost his mind. We'll get into that. Joe Scarborough actually compared Donald Trump to his mother, who has dementia, which is pretty disgusting. But let's get back to Stephen Colbert. I know it's a circuitous route today. Maybe I need a mental GPS today. I'm not sure. It's the sickness. All right. So here's Stephen Colbert last night talking about the interviews this weekend.
Walking out in the middle of a sentence wasn't even the president's biggest insult to John Dickerson.
And I think actually I've been very consistent. It's very funny when the fake media goes out, which we call the mainstream media, which sometimes I must say is you. But when the
You
fake
mean me personally, or
your show, I love your show. I call it Deface the Nation.
Really?
And wait till you hear Colbert's radical leftist audience.
Donald Trump, John Dickerson is a fair-minded journalist and one of the most competent people who will ever walk into your office. And you treat him like that? Now, John Dickerson has way
Now, this is where he's becoming dickish.
too much dignity to trade insults with the president of the United States to his face. But I, sir, am no John Dickerson.
Woo! Yeah! Oh, yeah!
Okay? All right? Let me introduce you to something we call the Tiffany way. When you insult one member of the CBS family, you insult us all. Bazinga.
Okay, yeah, there's your Big Bang reference from a 50-year-old guy. Donald Trump can walk out of any damned interview he wants. He's the president of the United States. He doesn't have to sit there. Donald Trump, 93% of the media coverage of the Trump administration is negative. And I don't blame him for, getting a little fed up with it. This is where Colbert gets ugly. This is where Colbert should either work for some sort of a PAC, a political group, but he shouldn't be on late night television. This isn't funny. This is mean. This is grotesque. He made some homophobic comments, which should upset everyone. You'll hear it at the very end. For all of you who are so concerned about trans and homophobia, you'd be better, look at both sides of the political equation. But of course, Colbert won't have to pay for this. Here's the tirade. And this, like I said, puts a shame to all who've come before him in late night television.
Mr. Trump, your presidency, I love your presidency. I call it disgrace the nation. You're not the POTUS, you're the bloatus. You're the glutton with the button. You're regular Gorge Washington. You're the president, but you're turning into a real pricktator. Sir, you attract...
Okay, this is a guy talking about the president of the United States, by the way. This is a man talking about the president of the United States.
More skinheads than free Rogaine.
Okay, that's another lie being perpetuated by people that the Trump followers are Nazis and skinheads. Here we go.
You have more people marching against you than cancer.
Yeah, they're all bought and paid for by George Soros.
You talk like a sign language gorilla who got hit in the head. In fact, the only thing your mouth is good for is being Vladimir Putin's holster. Your presidential library.
Okay, that was, I'll just go ahead and say it because I'm podcasting. Your mouth is Vladimir Putin's cock holster. That is a late night talk show host talking about the president of the United States. Now, I realize that I have partisan leanings, but F Stephen Colbert. That is sickening. It's not funny. It's appealing to a rabble in your audience. Sickening. So Donald Trump walked out on an interview with one of your cohorts who most of the time treat him either unfairly or in a very negative fashion on television. Then you end up calling him a pricktator and his mouth a cock holster for Vladimir Putin. Honestly, anyone else would be fired. Anyone else would be fired, and Stephen Colbert needs to lose his job. Absolutely sickening. It upsets me because, like I said, I use the name Carson for a reason. Can you imagine Johnny Carson using that kind of language? Jay Leno using that kind of language? Jack Parr using that kind of language? Whoever using that kind of language? Conan O'Brien using that kind of language? Jimmy Fallon using that kind of language? Jimmy Kimmel? No. You want to hear what Jimmy Kimmel talked about last night? Jimmy Kimmel last night did a monologue that was 13 minutes long. And he talked about his son being born with a hole in his heart. I want you to listen to this and juxtapose it to Stephen Colbert.
I have a story to tell about something that happened to our family last week. I'm sorry, I try not to get emotional, but it was a scary story. A little over a week ago on Friday, April 21st, my wife, Molly, gave birth to a boy, a baby boy. His name is William John Kimmel. We call him Billy. It was an easy delivery, 6 pushes, he was out, and he appeared to be a normal, healthy baby. When a very attentive nurse at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, her name is Nanush, was checking him out and heard a murmur in his heart, which is common with newborn babies, but she also noticed he was a bit purple and his lungs were fine, which meant his heart wasn't. So now more doctors and nurses and equipment come in, and it's a terrifying thing. My wife is back in the recovery room. She has no idea what's going on. And I'm standing in the middle of a lot of very worried-looking people, kind of like right now, who are trying to figure out what the problem is. They did an echocardiogram, which is a sonogram of the heart, and found that Billy was born with a heart disease. Something called tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia.
Compare that to cock holster. Compare that to pricktator. Honestly. I always say when it comes to communication, when it comes to performing for people, that connection is important as content. Stephen Colbert connected with grotesqueness last night. He connected with hate last night. Jimmy Kimmel connected with his audience on a profound level, and he shared a story.
It's hard to explain. Basically, the pulmonary valve was completely blocked, and he has a hole in the wall between the left and right sides of his heart. And then they brought my wife in, and they wheeled her in, and Dr. Zahn told her what was going on and what our options were. And we decided to take him to Children's Hospital, where there's a world-renowned cardiac surgeon who is by all accounts, a genius. His name is Dr. Vaughn Starnes. So we put the baby in an ambulance to Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. And on Monday morning, Dr. Starnes opened his chest and fixed one of the 2 defects in his heart. He went in there with a scalpel and did some kind of magic that I couldn't even begin to explain. He opened the valve and the operation was a success. It was the longest 3 hours of my life, but it was a success. So,
Now, I've been working with Children's Miracle Network for a number of years. So this isn't a surprise to me. I worked with Children's National Medical Center in Washington, D.C. for a decade. Worked with KU Pediatrics here. They're all Children's Miracle Network hospitals. They do miracles. In my office, I have a necklace a kid gave me. His name is Carson Connolly. And it has hundreds of beads on it. Each one of them was a medical procedure. He had leukemia, and he beat it, and he's my son's age, and so what they do at these hospitals is amazing. That's all I'll say about it. If you're a dad, I'm blessed. I'm really blessed. My kids had a couple little bumps, but nothing major. And I've had a friend who had a kid had a heart transplant. A friend of mine who works for Fox News named Brett Baer his son was born with profound issues with his heart and went through a number of surgeries. So can't imagine going through what they went through. But I just want to tell you that last night, Jimmy Kimmel outclassed Stephen Colbert, and Stephen Colbert made himself look like an elitist a-hole. All right, let's move on to other things. Sorry. This is, jeez. Entertain, you idiot. Entertain. Well, let's talk a little bit about Morning Joe. Morning Joe is now convinced, this is the latest front, that Donald Trump is mentally unstable to be the president. Okay. Right now, do I agree with everything that Donald Trump is doing? No, not necessarily. Am I happy that the budget has been passed for 5 months and we didn't get the things we wanted, like a cut in Planned Parenthood funding or the cut in funding for the EPA and a bunch of other stuff? Yeah, I'm a little upset about it. Am I glad that he went in and sent 60 Tomahawk cruise missiles into a Syrian airbase that was launching sorties with chemical weapons? Yeah. Am I glad that he's cutting regulation on the federal level? Am I glad he's pursuing massive tax cuts? Hell yeah. Am I glad that his policy with regard to immigration has reduced illegal immigration into the country from the southern border by 73%? Hell yeah. That doesn't come out of someone who is mentally unstable. That doesn't come out of somebody who is demented or experiencing dementia. But this is how low that the media are willing to go. And this is why nobody watches Morning Joe with Mika Brzezinski. Here's a little bit of Morning Joe this morning.
We could talk about North Korea and everything else. I want to talk about what's happened over the past 24 hours. Presidential historian Doug Brinkley said, described the president's confused mental state.
Yeah.
I saw the transcripts from just the rambling, talking about Andrew Jackson and the Civil War. And we've seen him try to bluff his way through things before. But you take that and John Dickerson, it was really, really shocking. With Dickerson, he was mumbling. He was rambling around, incoherent.
We have that. We'll show it to you.
And then just sort of quit.
Why does Mika Brzezinski just exist there? I mean, why has she even got a show? I don't understand it. She's just there. She's like that giggly weather girl on, bad morning radio. And here's where Joe reaches a new low, where he compares Donald Trump to his sick mother, who's been essentially, I guess, in some sort of care facility because she has dementia.
What was the line from the Civil War? Why didn't anybody? Nobody's asked this question before.
Why didn't anyone work that one out?
Yeah, but he started, but nobody has asked this.
This is speaking from a man who. And I'm not, listen, the simplification of it is, I have a problem with Donald Trump trying to simplify why did we allow the war to happen. There are a lot of reasons why the war happened. I don't think the war could have not happened when you leave the Union, but it was an oversimplification. I get it.
Question before, but why did we even have a civil war? My mother's had dementia for 10 years.
This is sickening.
That sounds like the sort of thing my mother would say today. Like people,
why would you pull that out of your quiver? on a Tuesday morning on TV.
She would say, people don't ask that question. Why did we have a civil war? It's beyond the realm. That is something. And I'm not trying to be anything here, but very direct. That's something that a 5-year-old might ask. But that is not anything that any grown-up that I have ever been around in my entire life would ever let pass from their lips.
Now, I do believe Barack Obama said that he was going to lower the levels of the ocean. What do you suppose is more insane? What is more insane? A guy who says that we can lower the levels of the ocean. He said that when he was campaigning it just before 2008. So this is the latest. This is the latest attack. Now he's not only a liar. Okay, he's not only colluded with the Russians to win the election. Now he is literally, he has dementia and he's lost his mind. We've gone there in 100 days. Here's a man who's been enormously successful in business. He ran a masterful campaign. He took on everybody, including 16 or 15 Republican candidates and the queen of the Democrat Party. He beat them all, and now he's got dementia. Just stop for a freaking second and listen to yourself. How much further are you going to take it? By the way, the May Day protest yesterday ended up being leftist, anti-Trump riots. That's what they all turn out to be. 40 people arrested around the country after May Day rallies erupted in violence in parts of the country. Police were forced to shut down a march in Oregon and New York when people started rioting. Protesters turned on each other. Marchers began throwing projectiles and smoke bombs at police in Portland. 25 arrests were made, including a 14-year-old is charged with rioting, while others started setting fires and smashing the windows of businesses. Leftist, anti-Trump, anarchist, professional protesters. 200 people, including families with children, were protesting peacefully in Portland. Things apparently escalated. Protests in New York also erupted when demonstrators clashed. And by the way, the new thing now, because of that Kylie Jenner commercial with the where she interrupts her photo shoot and she goes over and gives a Pepsi to a police officer in some sort of a peaceful march, leftist protesters now are hurling cans of Pepsi at police. And some of them are frozen. Tasty. Yeah, real tasteful. Real tasteful. All right, let's move on to some other stuff. I've got some other stuff that's not necessarily political. You're going to enjoy it. This story really bothered me. And as an advocate for the welfare of children and the prevention of child abuse, and also a father of two, I'm so troubled by this. There is a couple in Baltimore, and they had a YouTube channel going where they would prank their children, all right? They would prank their children, and they ended up having, I believe, about 900,000 viewers online. And they would prank the kids, and then they ended up making, I believe, $200,000 to $350,000 a year. $200,000 to $350,000 a year by pranking their children in the most cruel way. It was Daddy-O5 on YouTube. I believe that's been taken down. These parents, and by the way, one is the stepfather. You've got Mike and Heather Martin. They are Maryland parents out of Baltimore. Mike was married to another woman and had two kids, Cody 9 and Emma 12. All right. She has since filed for custody of the children. Now, what these folks were doing, what these parents were doing to these kids for fame on the web is despicable. Apparently the videos got out, and some people finally noticed that this is cruel. An online petition drew 19,000 signatures to get CPS to investigate the family. And, like I said, they were making a lot of money pranking their children like children from Lord of the Flies. One video that got 400,000 views was the mom confronting Cody. Now, apparently, he had gotten in trouble for spilling ink on a carpet in the past. She decided to trick him by spraying disappearing ink on the floor and then blaming him. And she said, "Get your effing ass up here." She screams at the beginning, a brutal 6-minute gag. What the F did you do? What the hell is that? Yells Mike. I didn't do it, the kid pleads. I don't have anything with ink or whatever that is. The bewildered boy breaks down in tears as the prank drags on before Heather finally reveals that she sprayed the disappearing ink on the floor. She said, it's just a prank. You guys got pranked hard. The stunned kid even does the outro for the video at his dad's request, plugging the family's social media and asking viewers to follow and like the YouTube channel. All right? That's the kind of things that they did. And apparently they spent a lot of time berating Cody. They spent a lot of time going after him while the other kids video. Often, this is a UK Daily Mail article, often Cody ends up red-faced, crying, screaming, or throwing things out of frustration. In one video, Cody threatens to kill himself. I hate my life, just kill me, he cried. Okay? So they have since had the children taken away. They were making a lot of money doing this. And what's really sickening is that people were watching it and thinking it was funny. We've got children who are parents. It's thoroughly sickening. Now, I saw the video with the invisible link, and then I saw the backlash online. Then I saw these idiots who had custody of these children, blaming people for being offended. We're just pranking people. We're just having fun. Sickening. Well, now they're apologizing online. I'll just share a sample of the Daddy-O5 video, one of them. And then I will share the parents apologizing and begging for forgiveness.
I'm tired of y'all trying to get away with stuff. And then we got homework that needs to be done. Where's Cody? Why the hell are you in here building stuff when you have chores?
I swept.
You swept that floor?
Yeah.
Did you do your homework?
Oh, that's so funny.
You're lying! Cody?
I didn't get my October reading log.
Get your ass upstairs.
I didn't get
This is funny, right? So this is supposed to be funny, I guess. That's child abuse. That's child abuse. Even if you're pranking your children, that is tantamount to child abuse. Honestly. This reminds me of a lot of times when you put somebody in a uniform. They will and put them in charge. And what was that? There was this the movie was made about this group of men at a university, and some were allowed to be in charge of what essentially was a prison, and some were prisoners, and the abuse ended up being absolutely horrific. And I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on it, but it happened. This reminds me of that. The more positive reinforcement the parents got online, the more despicable their acts became, to the tune of a little boy saying, I don't want to live anymore. Here's some of the apology.
Hello, Team DO5. This is going to be a bit of a different video than we usually do. This has been
because you're not being an a-hole.
Absolute worst week of our life, and we realized that we have made some terrible parenting decisions, and we just want to make things right.
During this week, we've had a lot of time to stand back, to jump out of character, and to see what we've done and to see how we've come across. And I understand how everyone feels. I acknowledge and I respect how everyone feels about this. And I do agree that we put things on the internet that should not be there.
Children raising children. Wanting fame, making a hell of a lot of money. Making a hell of a lot of money, man. But abusing their children for the money while people clap and give the thumbs up and the thumbs down. Unbelievable. Oh, by the way, it was the Stanford prison experiment. And I should know this. I saw the video. 24 male students out of 75 were selected to take on randomly a real-life experiment. It was funded by the U.S. Office of Naval Research, and it ended up being it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And that's what it kind of reminds me of, because the more that they kept going, the more that they played a character, that being a prison guard, the more cruel they became. That's what these two parents did. They were playing some sort of a character to elicit a response from their children by pranking them. Here's a little more from the bad mom.
We are now in family counseling because we need it, not only to get through the, media stuff, but we need it to come back together and have everybody, even the kids, to understand what we did wrong in all this. We just want to give our kids back some type of normalcy.
I don't understand. Honestly, I'm at a loss for words. That if you don't realize what you're doing while you're doing it like that, you shouldn't have children. You just shouldn't have children. I'm sorry. Oh, unreal. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for today. This is episode number 86. Going to be doing 87 here real soon. Then I'm taking a little break. I'm going back to Washington, D.C. to see some friends. Looking forward to that. Haven't been there in a while. If you get a chance to check out the politically incorrect swag that I'm selling, really cool Kansas-centric, Missouri-centric, Maryland-centric stuff, national stuff as well, just go to teepublic.com, teepublic.com. Look up Conservatees, Tees. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. T-shirts, onesies, hoodies, laptop cases, phone cases. If you would check it out, it'd be great. Order some stuff. It's really cool stuff. We've got a great designer in Sam Cangelosi. Also, if you get a chance to go to Grass Monsters KC, grassmonsterskc.com. If you're considering a rider and you want to get a zero-turn radius American-made mower, do not go to the big box store to one of those cheap ones that are chained out in front. Get a Hustler or get a marvelous Dixie chopper. I've got one of mine, a garage. It's a Silver Eagle. Make sure to check out grassmonsterskc.com. In the meantime, guys, I'm going to go take a couple of aspirin, get ready to do another podcast. Have a glorious rest of your day. God bless you, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to The Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram, I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now. We'll see you soon.